Hey guys, how are you doing today? So today's video is probably going to be a little long. I'm going to go ahead and apologize about that since now. If you stick with me, fantastic. If you don't, I understand. Uh, but I wanted to talk about something that's very personal to me, and um, the reason why I wanted to do this was because I was talking with a friend of mine who read my book, and he's a fellow writer and author. Go ahead and throw in a shameless plug for Ben Longoria, dystopia, horror, and kind of sci-fi. Definitely worth checking out. Trust me. But aside from that, he had read my book and he had picked up on a couple of things that I'd thrown in there. Um, Specifically, the PTSD and depression, right? And these are things that I know some people talk about them, but I feel sometimes like there's a bit of a disservice to it, and also misunderstandings, right? Because there are different types. There are different types of depression, different ways of dealing with these things. And so um, my depression um, isn't what most people deal with, right? Uh, I'm not going to go into the medical jargon or anything like that, but there's the seasonal depression, um, situational, that kind of stuff, and you know I think a lot of people who don't deal with this, their minds go straight to that kind of situation, that kind of depression, where our everything can be fixed, right? Real easily. Everything can be taken care of with, just snap out of it, things like that. It's not that simple for some of us, though, right? And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, okay? Um, that kind of depression that's just a part of who we are. And it's it's tough, obviously, so I'm kind of being vulnerable here, obviously. I'm not pretending like this is going to be an easy chat or anything like that, but I think it's something that needs to be said, okay? And so this is me talking about it, right? Um, so some of you guys, who follow me and stuff, have seen, one of the things I've posted, which was about um, it was a response from Bennett. He was talking about not today. And so before I let everybody go, I'm going to read more of that passage in context so that you guys can see where that came from and why it was there. Um, and to get there, though, what I wanted to start with was how we as authors, even if we don't know it, we end up putting a lot of ourselves into our writing, which I think really helps the writing. It makes it more personal. It makes it more believable, right? It makes it easier for our readers to get absorbed into the story, which is a good thing. That's what we want. Um, but with that said, uh, there's a lot of what I call darkness, right? I classify my book under dark fantasy, and it's not because there's a lot of like horrible evil things going on or anything like that, but because the darkness I'm dealing with is depression, is PTSD, and these kinds of things. And it's not just the main character Bennett; it's some of the other characters as well. All of them, like life, we are all dealing with something, right? And so that was something that was important to me as I was writing this story. And we see that each character is on a journey. We see that all this is happening. And the way it plays into my life is I have dealt with PTSD and depression both since I was a child. Um, some things happened. We're not going to get into that part, but for a lot of my life, and even now, really, there's something in there where I know that I'm insignificant, right? And before anybody goes off on me or anything like that, I need to explain that, or I will explain that. But the thing is that our significance on this little rock we call home, this earth, our significance is applied only by each other, right? That value system, it's found within us, right? It's found within us, it's found in the value that we apply to others around us. And so that was a very big thing for me to really think about and think about applying and how to apply it. Because the reality was that I was at a point in my life where I didn't care. Um, I've been suicidal twice, right? Uh, and those things are not good, um, societally, right? Uh, Very much taboo, and nobody wants to talk about those things. But the idea behind being suicidal, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but for me, was because I realized that I didn't matter, right? Uh, Nothing I did was good enough. Nothing I was doing was working. No one was going to help me out. Um, and that was rough, right? And it is rough because these things are everyday things, right? Um, I think about the fact that the Earth itself is insignificant when we think about the cosmos, right? We think about the universe, and suddenly none of us are anything, right? But our world, whether figuratively or literally, is its value is only what we assign it, right? Um, and that goes with relationships. Uh, I'm a husband and a father, and I think about those things when I'm dealing with my children and my wife, and I think about how to love them and that kind of stuff, and those things they matter to me, right? So I assign a value to those things, and I think about those things in that kind of value system. And so what I want to what I wanted to do was just kind of discuss my own personal journey with that. I had said that there wasn't any value, that there wasn't any value for me continuing on, and I realized that I was insignificant. Now, the way I have dealt with this is that I realized I was insignificant. Okay, and that might sound weird or counterintuitive, but the thing is, again, it comes back to that value, right? The value that I have, the value that I assign to myself, or the value that others assign to me, um, I have to take that and do something with it. And that isn't always easy, you know? Um, and that's okay, right? It's okay for us to deal with these things. It's okay for us to talk about these things, find a way to move forward, right? Um, and that's where writing came in for me, right? I felt like I had something to say, not like I needed to say something, but like I had something to say, something worth hearing, something for others to find comfort in or learn from, perhaps. And um, so, in that scene that I was talking about, it's really important to me because I put me into it in a very real way. And like I said, I will read that here in a second. I have my book here, It's right near the end of chapter 12. And for context, what's happening is the character, Bene, he's trying to figure out what to do with life, right? His journey is taking him on a path where he wants to be released from his suffering. And my editor, she came up with a pretty sad tagline, but it was true. And she said that the happy ending that we seek in my book is the protagonist's death. That's the happy ending we're looking for. Um, does he get there? Who knows, right? You guys will have to read it. But uh, but this particular scene, he's talking with somebody else. He's stumbled across an ancient, a highborn queen, and or the highborn queen, I should say, and she is, very frail, very fragile in this point, but very wise, and she knows and understands exactly what he is, and there's a lot unspoken between them where it really touches home as to how to go about taking care of people, right? It comes down really to how we decide we're going to respond. We might respond well, we might not. Okay? And that's okay. We might respond in a horrible way. We might not respond in a horrible way. Who knows, right? But I think a lot of times what really happens is people don't know how to respond to these things that we're dealing with. I mean, heck, for those seasonal things, the seasonal lows that we have in life, a lot of people can't handle those, right? And we see people pushed to the edge in the worst possible ways. And so that's something that I have to think about, you know, in life and in dealing with people and in helping others to try and cope and that kind of thing. And it's not always easy. And I know that. It's not easy for me, it's not easy for them, it's not easy for anyone. We're all in this together, guys. This world, it's all we have. Each other is all we have. And one day we're not going to be here anymore. The food for thought, right? All we'll have uh, left behind is our legacy, and that's a whole other can of worms to open up. Maybe I'll do that sometime. But anyway, I wanted to go ahead and read this, and then I'll let you guys go. But I wanted to give you guys just a little bit of the background to this. Instead of continuing, he decided to go back for Cora. Now that he had seen where he needed to be, he would have no problems returning to this place. It would be arduous, but he was determined to get Cora out. Bennett danced back upward, using his tendrils to help pull his weight as he jumped to the next level, following his markers and making good time. Soon, he was returned to Cora's side. "Took a bit longer than I expected," said she. "Apologies, but I believe I found the pathway we need." "Well then, I would argue that what wait there was completely worth it. Would you agree?" Cora began to rise. Her legs, even after all this time, were still shaky. Bennett took note of this, wondering when she would begin to get better. "I shall be fine once we reach the surface and I can eat again and drink in the sun. Worry not, young Wraith." "If you would not mind, Cora, I could carry you, and we could get there much faster with less need to stop." Bennett held her by the wrist and placed it over his shoulder, supporting her weight with the strength of his back. How long could you last before you need to feed? In the past days, he had told her everything about himself, about the painful history as a captain to a princess he once held so much hope for, about that faithful moment when he and Devani's lives were changed forever on that road so near home, about his torture and agony as his soul was separated from himself and bound to hers, about the moment the elders stepped in and Devani betrayed him, and how, in that moment, Bennett became a wraith, devoid of a soul, with an insatiable hunger which could only be filled with the life of another. I feel good. If there comes a question, I will let you know and recuse myself from your presence. You have my word. Cora smiled at Bennett. I do not fear for me, my dear Wraith. I fear for your mind and your heart, both of which are so close to succumbing. Ever since Aphractus split my bond with the princess, I have been close to giving myself to the sorrow which defines my darkness. But I still fight. Most days, I am sure it is a fight which I will eventually lose. But not today, I always tell myself. Not today. So, my friends, if you're dealing with depression and PTSD or any of those other mental illnesses, guys, there are those of us out there who have your back. And when you wake up in the morning and you're close to succumbing to that darkness, tell yourself, not today. Not today, guys. Have a good one, and thanks for sticking around.